converted to Islam and took Islam to the Caucasus to Central Asia. And the greatest Muslim empires that were ever in existence came after that invasion. The Ottoman Empire, which lasted 600 years, was the Turkic Empire. The Safavid Empire, a Turkic Empire. The Mughal Empire in South Asia, a Turkic Empire. So again, my point being that if you look at these sort of large or secular trends in history, there is no need for despondency. What one must do is to responsibly use whatever fortes, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, and use it in a positive way for the emancipation of the Muslims around us, and of course of the general humanity, which is the great purpose of the existence of being Muslim. That is to take care of Muslims. And Imam Balwa of Yale, when he gave his khutbah, also talked about this, that the hadith that a Muslim's iman is not complete unless he wants for his brother what he wants for himself. And the word brother meaning here not just your fellow Muslim, but your fellow man. But moving on, and we'll come to the sort of Mongol invasion later on as well. Speaking of this matter of responsibility, I think today another chronic issue that many Muslims face is this concept and idea of getting into unnecessary nitty-gritty and sort of embroiling ourselves in those sort of finer, detailed points of view. And I think that's extremely unfortunate. Really, I've come across Muslims debating the length of their pantaloons, and really, if you look at it in the larger scheme of things, is that really necessary? It doesn't matter if your pantaloons are 2 inches above your anklets or 4 inches below. When you say your prayers, really you say them for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, I ascribe to you sort of reason and before I pray. But one must look into the reality no matter what is the historical example of why this happened. This happened because during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were certain arrogant sort of Qurayshis who were so rich, and they wanted to show their splendor and their grandeur with extremely long robes that sort of sprung by for miles on end. And the idea was just to show that they are rich, while there were people who didn't have enough cloth to cover their bodies. So the idea was to sort of, that one prays to show humility, or one does those things. But we have examples of Hazrat Abu Bakr, who didn't do that. It was really about the raison d'etre. What is the point of doing something? What is the niyyah? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالَ بِالنِّيَّةِ. Actions are judged by intention. In this day and age, by the grace and will of Allah, especially in societies like we find ourselves in today, which are affluent societies, people are clothed, but there are much greater issues that society faces that we must get into. Again, going to the Mongol invasion, it is said that the scholars of the time were debating such matters of such unnecessary nature, such as they were debating how many fingers to use when one washes oneself after answering the call of nature. And really, it was these unnecessary matters that sort of led to the downfall of the caliphal order in Baghdad at the time, which of course at the time was a great sort of shock and a great loss to the Muslims, both in terms of the body of knowledge and the loss, of course, the human loss, which goes without saying. But again, talking about the larger sort of themes of history, there have been plenty of examples when Muslims face losses that are undescribable today, that one is shocked by the mere sort of nature of. There was a movement called the Parmenians, which decimated, I think, 1 or 2 Hajj, and they killed all the Hujjaj to the point where the well of Zamzam was red with the blood. But the Muslims, by the strength of our iman and by the nature of our very spiritual existence, were able to tackle all these issues. Whenever you had sort of these fitnas around and so on, Muslims, by the grace and will of Allah and by the mercy of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, were able to essentially tackle these issues. And that is something we must remember when we look at things today. We mustn't let a sense of despondency overwhelm us, because there is no despondency now. We must exhibit sabr, and the reward of sabr, of course, is indeed most high. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely loves and takes into regard. We have the example, of course, We have plenty of examples in Islamic history. Of course, the example most cited is that Hazrat Ayyub alayhi salam, the Prophet, and the angels, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was very close to Ayyub, vice versa, and was very fond of Hazrat Ayyub, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to tell his angel that this is a servant, this is the way a servant should behave, or be like, this is the quintessential example of a servant. And the angel said, well, you've never really tested the man. You don't really know his true metal. You blessed him all along. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, let me test him. And we know of the sickly disease that Ayyub had to endure. But the sabr, the patience he exhibited is indeed an example for all times to come. There were parasites on his skin that were feeding off of him. And there was a time when the parasites would fall to the ground. He picked them up and put them on his skin. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, at this point in time, given you my body to feed on, and that is what you shall feed on, because that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained and wants. And of course, in due time, all this trial and tribulation went away, and the Hazrat Ayyub was back to his glorious days. We have many examples of prophets, of Anbiya, of Sahaba Ikram, of Tabain, of Tabain, and so on throughout Islamic history. What great patience was exhibited by the Muslims. Alhamdulillah, they rose better than they ever rose. So Alhamdulillah, really that is an important message. Of course, I must digress and point out that the finer, sort of reaching finer stages of Iman is something that is most noble, and that is a struggle that we must do in our daily life. Increasing our level of spirituality, increasing our level of Iman and our ibadah, our obedience to Allah Almighty, and of course our worship is most important. One of the things, an experiment, interestingly, I did before coming to Colombia, I read the Quran and Kareem from Habib in the English language. And one of the things that kept on coming up, a recurring theme, was the word zikr. It kept on coming up in the Quran because it's very important for us in our daily life to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever it is we do, whether it is we enter the mosque and we say the dua for entering the mosque, whether we enter the washroom and we say the dua for entering the washroom, or whether it is we wake up or we go to sleep and we say the respective du'as for that, and so on and so forth. So zikr is obviously very, very important. And the science of ihsan, or the science of perfection, is indeed a most noble science that Muslims must strive to. But those are things that come in later. The most important sort of scruple is haqqul ibad, or the rights we owe to people. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Hadith al-Qudsi that haqqul Allah, that is our rights that we owe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He can forgive, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving and most merciful. But haqqul ibad are things that even on Judgment Day we would have to go to the individual person and ask forgiveness for. So the way we treat our fellow human beings is extremely important. And what to say of human beings, Islam even talks about animals. There is of course the example, and there are plenty of examples. The example of Prophet ﷺ's favorite cat, whose name I'm unfortunately forgetting right now. But the cat was so beloved of Prophet ﷺ, and such was the mercy, really, it's a testament of the beauty and mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. There was a time that the Prophet needed his mantle because he was going to lead the prayers, but the cat was sleeping on the mantle. So Prophet ﷺ didn't wake up the cat, he cut the mantle to the point where the part of the cloth that was under the cat remained there, and then he took the rest of the mantle with him. So I think Mu'azzam, that's the name of the cat was Mu'azzam. So really that is an example of the mercy that Islam ordains about not just our fellow human beings, but about animals as well. We of course have the example of the woman of easy virtue, a prostitute essentially, who found herself near a well where a dog was exceptionally thirsty, and so she took her shoe and dipped it in the well and fetched the dog water to replenish his energies and fulfill his thirst. And the Prophet ﷺ was, of course, given divine access